Welcome back to Yahoo Finance Live. In this week's real estate report, I want to focus in on not just home prices and the buying spree that we're seeing now, but also focus in on what younger Americans are looking for when it comes to buying that perfect home. And according to Bank of America's Homebuyer Insights report, the findings there point to an emphasis that might not be all that different than what we've seen from other generations, including a focus in on an emphasis when it comes to a sense of community in the neighborhood. And for more on that, I want to bring on Bank of America's head of neighborhood lending and retail sales east, AJ Barkley, joins us right now. Appreciate you coming on here to chat with us. I mean, it's interesting to see kind of how we might be different, but what about this neighborhood sense stands out as so important when it comes to younger Americans?
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. I think it's the environment we've been functioning in for over 12 months. And it's given people an opportunity to think about the interests that they may have in common with their neighbors and then the communities that they want to move in. I mean, the survey really is focused on 2,000 current homeowners or prospective homeowners. So it really is a mix. And we talked about age, the generation is 18 to let's just say early 40s. And the priorities have really changed in terms of what they're looking for. Interest in community, interest in what their neighbors like, and engaging with their neighbors more, which I thought was pretty interesting. We also heard that not just thinking about restaurants and shops and shopping, which has typically been what people think about with home ownership, but now it's around parks and other outdoor activities. So it's shifted pretty significantly.
AJ, an interesting stat that stood out to me from the survey, many hopeful homebuyers are looking to the suburbs, 48%, and even rural areas at 29%. Both of these were up 18% year on year. I'm wondering how sticky you see that trend being as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic and as people start to go back into the office, potentially in metropolitan areas.
Well, I think it's a new trend. I think that people have realized over, again, the time that we've been home, that they can do a lot remotely. They can do things that they didn't think they could do. And quite frankly, I think they've reassessed their own personal priorities. If you think about it, people have put gyms in their homes now. If you can, you're teaching your kids at home. You have a lot of things that were very different. And I think they figured out how to do those things if it's appropriate still when it's time to go back to work and if their employer brings them back into the office. But I think people have really adjusted. They've adjusted to what's a priority for them. And I was very surprised about the rural. It's 29% of people wanting to move into rural areas.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked so much about how much of this might be short-lived dynamics, right? When we think about maybe still working at home, the survey also pointing out that younger homeowners here are more likely to be spending time at home to work. But I wonder how much or how long you think that those factors will be top of mind once we do recover, once we get back to normal, if that's historically what you've always seen, or if we should expect some changes there.
Well, we didn't see that kind of lift in rural specifically. We talked about an 18% increase, and we talked about restaurants and shops. I think it's in for the long. We're in for it for the long haul. I believe people will stay focused on properties that make sense to them. I also think what's going to happen is currently in this market, it's a seller's market. People are going to want to do more things to their current properties, which they may actually be in suburban areas or rural areas. And so they're going to be making adjustments to use the equity in their home to make some improvements. One of the things that we're seeing and hearing is as we're on Zoom meetings and doing different things, people are actually seeing some cool stuff in the background when they're watching people on meetings. And they're saying, well, I think I could do that in my home. So I think we're going to see a shift in maybe people who are going to think about new homes, thinking about renovating and doing things in their own homes. And those people that are anxious to move, they do want to move in areas that community is important to them. They also are thinking about solar home, smart homes and solar homes, and looking for different ways to take advantage of being closer to their neighbors and friends. I don't think it's just an issue or an opportunity right now. I expect people to be making some very different decisions long term.
And AJ, we've been seeing recently just in the housing market, tight inventory levels are pushing home prices so much higher. And I'm wondering if that affordability factor is starting to weigh on whether or not people, and especially young people, are looking in the near term at purchasing their own home.
Well, that didn't change in terms of new homeowners and younger people. I think they're deciding, and what we're seeing is they're deciding very early that they want to purchase a home. And maybe it's not necessarily in the city anymore. Maybe it's in a different area. So they're making very, very different spending decisions. They're saving more. They're living with their parents a lot longer to save more. They're deciding to not have this huge wedding. They're making decisions to spend and use those funds differently, maybe not the big vacation. So that really didn't shift year over year. I think people being more planful about being prepared for home ownership has really shifted. And since we've been home, people have been using digital tools and resources to learn more about being prepared for home ownership. Also, you talked about the market being so tough. I think it's extremely important now, if you are in the market, that you get pre-approved before you start your search. Pre-qualification is just not enough anymore. So I think people are really starting to think about, how do I get better prepared? How am I in a better position in a very, very competitive market? So being pre-approved is extremely important.
All right, AJ Barkley, Bank of America Head of Neighborhood Lending and Retail Sales East, thank you so much.